What are you working on today, buddy?
Well, the trash mic setup is because I am trying to cut some blocks on the CNC mill in short order because I gotta try to overnight it to California for a test I'm working on for the school stuff.
A test for, you said school stuff?
Yeah. I went out to this place called Hadland Imaging in Santa Cruz, California. And this thing that I'm working on is awesome. I'm making these projectiles that impact and do this certain thing. And it's kind of hard to explain, but it's fun. And I went out and got some data, and I sent it to you, the 2.5 million frames per second stuff.
It's amazing. So are you making the stuff that gets shot or that shoots?
Both. I'm making the projectile and the target. And
what is the target made of?
What's the target made out of?
Yeah.
It's made out of polycarbonate. The projectile is also made out of polycarbonate. And so what I'm doing, you're just gonna hear a bunch of just junk, doors and machines and stuff. But I am working on a special geometry that will enable me to maximize pressure at a certain location. That's what I'm ultimately doing. And in order to do that, I did this big parametric analysis with a computer, and it's a bunch of stuff that's way over my head, or at least it was way over my head.
Those are the simulations you've sent me?
Yeah. And so I got it working now. It's just really rad. So now at this point, things work, and it's just a matter of making some additional geometries that I think might be interesting. And if I do that and send those back out, I think I'll be finished with the actual test part of the research. So
you said you're making blocks by additional geometries. Do you mean different shaped blocks or different shaped projectiles?
Both, yeah. So a parametric analysis is where you design a thing with a bunch of different dimensions, and you can change those dimensions. And when you and I were going to school, the scientific method was like, oh, okay, well, define your variables. Sorry, I'm in the bushes here turning a water hose on. It was like, hey, let's define some variables and let's only change one variable. And then we can make a plot that shows how X changes with respect to Y, and science, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, people started realizing, okay, this is difficult because you have to do an infinite number of tests because there's so many different variables in almost everything that you end up in a position where it's like, okay, well, we have to change like 3 variables to get the optimum result. And so it became pretty trendy to do this thing called a parametric analysis, where you change a lot of the variables at one time, and then you create what's called a response surface. And a response surface is like a 3D, it looks like a topographical view of a mountain. And you're looking for not only just the local minimum and maximum, whatever you're optimizing for, you're looking for the absolute minimum and maximum. And there's a lot of different algorithms you can do to get there. But what I did is I made a 3D CAD design and I parameterized it. And then once it's parameterized, you can change all these things, and then I can run a simulation on all these different parameterized cases. And then once you do that, you say, oh, it looks like this particular thing is interesting. Like in the thing I was running, I ended up running around, I think it was 250 simulations, which took about a week. And then I found like 3 or 4 that I thought were interesting. And I had another one that was like, this one would just look cool. So you do a combination of things that are scientifically interesting and like, okay, that would make pretty good visuals and it'd help me understand things. And then you shoot them. And so that's where those sweet videos I sent you last week were. Were they not awesome?
Oh, they're fantastic. And that is before your buddy added in the shockwave circles coming out of the impact.
Yeah. Yeah, Michael did that. And so...
Okay, can I slow you down for just a second? This is complicated, and I want to track with you because I know you're really invested in it, and I like trying to understand it and appreciate what really has been a huge part of your life for the last big chunk of time here.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, back in the day, you're saying the weakness of this kind of research is that it took even longer to run any kind of simulations. But now, and it would take forever to run these simulations in the real world to get a large enough sample size for outliers and patterns to emerge, like actually banging the thing against the thing and breaking down the data. So you made it so that you could run way more simulations quicker by not actually doing it in the physical world, but with close enough parameters that there's a good chance you were approximating the impact correctly. Then rather than wasting years just running these samples and running the data on each sample, you ran it with some CAD design that you did. Then you were able to see the patterns emerge from a big enough sample size. You were able to see the outliers. But then you went and actualized it in the real world by trying to set up the exact interesting impact that you had simulated. Am I getting it?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. There's a place called Hadland Imaging. They... I deal with phantom cameras a lot. The camera that I have,
like ones that aren't there, but you kind of act like they're there.
They have a Shimadzu. Now, a Shimadzu is a Japanese camera that is a framing camera, kind of. Instead of taking thousands and thousands of images at lower resolution at super high speed, it just takes 256 images. But it can do it at 4 million frames per second. I think it actually can go 5 million frames per second.
How do you time that right for the impact?
Basically, you have two optical screens. So the projectile is fired and it flies through a laser gate, T1, and then it flies through another laser gate a known distance apart, T2. And what that does is it says, okay, well, it was at this location. Okay, there's going to be some air for a second. That was loud and awful.
What was that? What was that?
I'm in the CNC mill, and I just made a block, and I was cleaning it off, and I'm about to load another one in there.
I'm sorry, I'm bothering you with silly questions, but is that stuff sharp, the shavings? Like, if you just leave it on the ground, will it, does it irritate skin, or you just blast it off wherever?
This is polycarbonate, so no, it's not sharp. It's not bad at all.
It's not like fiberglassy when it gets that small in terms of the properties where it sticks to your skin and stuff?
No. Let's see. Mill's starting back up. You're going to hear some weird noises.
Good. Keep being productive.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just flipping I've got a tool changer on the mill, and so it's selecting the next tool and going for it. It's really neat. But, yeah, so once you get the two velocity gates, it says, hey, the projectile was here at this time and here at this time, and it's going about Mach 2. Therefore, since the target is X number of centimeters away, it should be there at this time, and that's when we're going to issue a trigger to the Shimadzu to try to take the images.
Dang.
And it's
so those videos
really
I
cool.
saw were only 256 images long?
256 images.
Yeah, but they were beautiful. Like, well lit, super detailed. So that's the trade-off. When you run a bajillion frames a second camera, it gives you more margin for error to try to get, something that happens very quickly. You can just run the shot longer, but you get, it would make it harder to write all those additional images quickly. So the advantage of this camera is you can get a way prettier image, but it's much more difficult to time it out.
Exactly. It's very hard to time it.
Okay.
There's a guy named Todd there at Hadland. He's great. We kind of swam in the same circles for high-speed videography stuff. We speak the same language. In fact, I have a book by Harold Edgerton, who was the MIT professor that basically invented high-speed videography. I have a book by Edgerton called Electronic Strobe Flash. And I picked...
Sounds great.
I picked one up off the shelf at Todd's place at Hadland. I said, dude, I have this same book, only mine is signed by Harold Edgerton. This is awesome. And then I flipped the cover of his over, and it was signed by Harold Edgerton in the same year mine was signed, only his was better. His said, like, somebody had clearly taken it from MIT, from Dr. Edgerton's lab. It said, stolen from MIT lab on this date. So it was so cool. But yeah, it was really fun. So long story short, I really like doing this stuff, and it's fun. I got just enough data, as you saw, to uncover some questions, and so I'm making some edits to everything, and I'm hopefully going to answer some of those questions with new geometry. So model test. Only I'm kind of just doing model test.
I've asked you this before, but now you're further down the road and you've thought about it more, so I'm going to ask you again. What is the point? How could this help? Why is this knowledge worthwhile?
So I'm dealing with something, and I haven't talked about this publicly yet, but I'm dealing with something called projectile-driven impact fusion. Years ago, there were some people in the 70s that had this really cool conference, and they said, hey, fusion is neat, and there's multiple ways to get to fusion. And one of the ways is a tokamak, or which is these neat looking, it's hard to explain what they look like, but they look like a big donut that's wavy, like a croissant donut. And they manage the magnetic fields in a really cool way to contain plasma at a high enough pressure in order to literally make fusion, like nuclear fusion. But there are other ways you can get to fusion too, and one of the ways that was proposed by a dude way back in the day, a guy named Winterberg. There's another guy, I think his name was Harrison or something like that. These guys said, hey, you can also make fusion happen by just putting some fuel in a little capsule and knocking the absolute snot out of it. Like, that'll work, according to something called the Lawson criteria, which is like things that make fusion ignition happen. And so these guys came up with this thing, and they had a little conference about it, and they talked about it, but nobody ever put a lot of effort into the geometric design of the actual projectiles. Now, since then, there's been a company in England that's done it. They're called First Light Fusion, and it's pretty cool. They've done a really neat thing, only they won't tell anybody anything because it's their trade secret.
Okay.
And so I got to looking at all this stuff, and I was like, man, this stuff is really cool. Nobody's really talked about it. I would like to research this. And so I don't think projectile-driven impact fusion is going to be a thing in my lifetime. I'm under no, I don't know, what's the word when it's not...
delusion, illusion?
Thank you, delusion. I'm under no delusions that I think this is going to be like a thing anytime soon. But it's really cool to investigate. And so I just want to be a guy that investigates things like this. And so that's what I'm doing. And I think it's the whole deal with a PhD is you're supposed to push human knowledge in a direction. Like, you're supposed to just make a contribution to human knowledge.
Yeah.
And I picked this because it is so beyond me and so hard that in order to get to a point where I can speak intelligently about it, I have to learn so many things. It's not the easy path. It's kind of the stupid path. But I don't know. That's why you and I do things like this. Right?
I suppose so. Well, I've never done something like that.
Yeah, you have.
This is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I remember talking with Dr. Cassabry, who you've worked with on this degree, and talking about fusion and fission and why one is doable, and propulsion, particularly outside the Earth's atmosphere, can function with one and why the other is so hard, but why the other opens up a whole lot of possibilities. And so I understand there's a lot of real estate between you tinkering around with this stuff in the background while we're talking and actual fusion being something that's predictable enough and somehow harnessable and usable for questions that our distant descendants will wonder about in terms of conquering the solar system or the galaxy or whatever. But it's kind of cool to think that what you're doing might in some way contribute to some bit of knowledge that will help make things that were just previously unthinkable possible in who knows what application.
It's fun to consider that it might.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's squarely in the, oh, this is cool category in my head. So yeah, it's fun. It's neat.
Have you considered that some future time traveler might come back to be like, hey, I'm back here to talk you out of figuring this out. I need you to drop out of this program and cease your research immediately. I can't tell you why.
It's funny you say that because I just met a time traveler. No, I'm joking. I just read a book, or listened to a book called The Three-Body Problem, and I'm on book 2 of 3. And one of the things they're doing in the book is they encounter an organization that tries to stop human research in certain areas. And I found that to be very interesting.
What are the areas?
Specifically nanomaterials. That's what their areas were. It's very neat. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Pretty interesting. Thanks for the, I apologize for the noise.
Oh, it doesn't matter at all. I just think this is how our friendship is. It's very rare that we're just sitting there and chat. Like, I don't talk to you on a bench very often, where I sit on like a bench and look at birds.
Yeah.
And feed them. There's usually something going on. So.
Are you doing that right now?
Sitting on a bench, feeding birds?
Yeah. Are you?
We think I'm 80? Yes, I'm feeding birds. They're so beautiful.
So you've got like a mic on as well?
No, I'm at my desk.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No.
Sorry.
No, you win this time. But I mean, I've got my little book-a-lanch here for things that I've been working on, and I do have a thing that moves at more of a pace of like one frame, not so much like per second, but just one frame period that I wanted to run by and game out.
Okay.
All right, you remember last time when I asked you... Maps, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, a lot's happened since then. I wouldn't have blamed you for not remembering. But last time around, I was asking you to just game it out. How would you go from where you live to where I live if there was nothing? No map, no atlas, no nothing. I wanted to hear how you would process out, how you would visualize in your brain how to navigate a long distance in space to get where you need to be. And it was fun. I mean, we got to a lot of different things, but I wanted to follow up and talk about how people actually did solve for this, like in the ancient world, before they had any of the technology or any surefire physical visual snapshot of the world. I mean, it's just wild that we live in an age where there's always been a picture of the continent we live on from above.
Oh, yeah.
We totally take that for granted, and yet, for almost all of human history, I mean, how sure could the normal person be of what shape their island was, or their continent, or how all the stuff on Earth fit together, or how big the oceans are compared to land masses? I mean, they hadn't seen a picture of it. They'd seen drawings, interpretations, estimates, but they didn't know, and I think that's weird.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's very weird. So, is that the question? How would you do it?
No, here's my question. And forgive me there, the CNC mill noise canceled you for a minute, so I didn't hear a couple things you said, but I caught up with you now. I know what you meant. So this is my question for you. Setting aside all technology, so we're taking mechanized travel off the table. We're taking, obviously, aerial photography, obviously, satellite photography. All of that's off the table. But you have pens, pencils, the math of the ancient world. You have all of that. How would you make a map? representing the world. And so my first question for you would be just, what are the fundamentals of a map? What does it need to do in order to work? What has to be on there?
Oh, dude, man. This is a hard question. Well, where my brain goes initially is reference points. Like, you need datums. And so the beauty of the compass is we discovered a datum, albeit a local datum because of magnetic declination and stuff. But before they had the compass, did you ever see the chariot that the Chinese made? It was the north-pointing chariot. Did you ever see this?
Yes, I have. If I turn this book like 2 pages that I have in front of me, it's right here. Yes, but tell me about it. What do you mean?
So it was a really cool chariot that it was almost like a differential slip clutch kind of thing, only it wasn't a clutch. So was it Genghis Khan? I have no idea. That's the only. Well, I guess he was a Mongol.
He's a Mongol, yeah. You salvaged that. I didn't even have to help you. Nice job.
I don't know who did it, but some Chinese guy figured out, like, hey, if we have a chariot and we have 2 wheels at the back of the chariot, and if we turn to the left, then the chariot wheel on the right is going to rotate more than the chariot wheel on the left. And if we have some type of gearing system to measure that, literally the differential rotation between the 2 chariot wheels, then we can figure out, hey, we just turned left. And this joker, whoever this guy was, did it in such a way that as long as there was no slip on the wheels, not only would it say, hey, you just turned left, it would tell you how much left you turned. And so, assuming the wheels didn't slip, you could go in a circle. You could, with the mules or whatever, you could go in a big circle, and it would constantly point in a direction, whether it be north or east or back to the city from whence you came or whatever it was. And I remember thinking about this and thinking to myself, whoever did this was an absolute genius. It's one of the smartest things I've ever seen. So you don't have to worry about looking at the stars. You don't have to worry about a compass because you didn't know that existed yet. You just had to look at the little. I think it was actually a man with a finger pointing out. It was literally
exactly.
Do you have it in front of you? What does it look like?
Yeah, it's it's in this book. So it looks more like a cart that you would pull with you more than a chariot per se.
Oh, okay.
But here's a modern recreation of it, and the modern recreation is kind of transparent, so you can see the gearing inside. But the man always points south.
South, okay.
So my understanding is that whoever made it, and this is like half a millennium before Jesus. This is like concurrent with the Persian Empire. So whoever made it, they oriented using astronomy to true south. But then they wanted to take that show on the road. And so this little, they call it chariot. You're using the right term, but it looks more like a little 2-wheel pivot in place cart kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Like if one of the wheels was kind of stationary and just pivoted on itself, or if it rolled in a tight internal circle. And then there's a little dude on the top, literally just a man pointing, and he just always points south no matter what you do, which, is just an insane advantage for exploration and for military. I don't know. You can't use it at sea, I guess. You can if you orient first astronomically and then calibrate your little aiming chariot. Then I guess you would just use the aiming chariot at sea as a quick reference. No, that doesn't work.
No, it's
because the water would move.
It relies on
you
zero slip of the ground.
Right. Yeah, but man, that's hard to guarantee. So what would be the practical application of that?
Well, it gives you a datum. It says, at that point, you start to be a datum, meaning a place that you measure from. And so you can start to define a vector. So you could say something like, okay, go 1,000 stadia from that city in this direction. And so the ability to hold the direction is the important part. What is a stadia? I've heard it. I just don't know what that is.
Well, you would think of the two of us, I would be the one who knows, but I don't. However, I do have a robot here that knows things like that.
While you do that, I'm going to load a new G code, which relies on a lot of datums. Data? Data. What is plural of datum? Can you ask your robot what the plural of datum is while you're there?
Yeah, I'll do that in a minute. The plural. Okay, so stadia is plural. Stadion is singular. All right, hang on. It's 600 ancient Greek feet. That doesn't help me at all. How far is that? Okay, historians estimate that a stadion is between like 500 and 700 feet.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. My point is this. I think the application of that is that it's a quick reference, that it would usually be quicker to orient using that than to calibrate with stars every time, because clearly they had the knowledge to figure out what south was in the first place. So it just seems like the kind of thing where when you were in an environment where you wanted to use the little south-facing chariot, you would probably first have to orient and calibrate. And you're like, all right, now as long as we keep the wheels on the ground, this will work. And south-facing chariot guy, it's your job. Pull it properly. You know, we have it really weighted down so it won't slip or slide on dust or whatever, and it should stay pretty calibrated as long as you, an expert operator, move it in a proper way. But I would have to guess that once the operator knew something had gone wrong with how it was moved, they would have to recalibrate using astronomy again. I don't know this, it's just my guess.
So what I would do if I was that chariot guy is I would look at my tracks, and I would, every so often, just before I went over the horizon or whatever, I would create a point where my cart was and a point where the dude was pointing. And I would say, hey, that's the line. And that way you could recalibrate every so often if you had to. That's what I would do. Dude, this is such an interesting topic because, like, for example, firing mortars. You know what the purpose of mortars are on the battlefield, right? I'm thinking pre-drone.
A mortar gives you a ground-based aerial attack that can clear obstacles, walls, whatever.
Yeah, you can attack non-line of sight targets. And so when people fire mortars, what they do is they set up an aiming tool on the mortar tube itself, and then they look backwards. They look backwards at these little stakes that they have in the ground. And those stakes, they are dialed in. And so much like we're talking about looking backwards to make sure you're still looking the same direction, when you're trying to attack a non-line of sight target, mortar aiming people look backwards at these stakes that they already have surveyed in. It's really interesting. I think that's what I would do. I would aim backwards every so often and just have a datum calibration, as you say, ready to go.
Would there be any advantage to using a ship to cross-reference that for coastlines and so forth?
A ship?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, let's say you're making a map from scratch of the ancient Mediterranean world.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of coastline there. There's a lot of water. Your technique is going to work for some of it, but how do you know how big the water is?
Yeah, dude, that'd be so hard. So the question is, how did they make the coastline back in the day?
Well, that's one of my questions, because if you're going to make a map of the world, or really any area, you have at least two surfaces that you have to account for. And in some places you have a third, which is just a void. That there are places in the world that you just simply, without flight, you can't traverse. There's probably a bottom to it, but you can't get down there. You can't go down there. Holes, fissures, crags, canyons, etc. So really you have three types of surfaces, if you will, that you have to account for: land, void, and water. And you'd have to calculate all of those differently.
What is the void?
The void is just anything where you can't go to the bottom of a thing and measure it using your chariot because you can't get down there. Like we're talking like seemingly bottomless pits and cenotes, like a non-traversable canyon. Like some of the surface area to people of the ancient world would have been effectively just a giant hole in the ground you can't get down.
Dude, this is such an interesting topic. Are you familiar with the concept of a backsite?
No, I don't think so.
In surveying, I'm sorry, I'm derailing. You're talking about ships. I don't know the answer to your question for ships. I mean, if you could solve
Well, it's not,
the
it's
longitude
not what's
problem.
the right answer. It's what would you do? Like how would... Hey, Destin Sandlin.
Yeah.
It's 300 BC. Make me a map of the Mediterranean.
It's what year? I'm sorry, the phone broke up.
300 BC. I'm just making stuff up.
It depends on if Archimedes was alive or not at that point, because he had a bunch of math that was really cool.
Okay, I was going to go with I'm Ptolemy the First, and I'm asking you to do this. It's just after the age of Alexander, but I'm not Ptolemy the First. I'm Caesar Augustus. It is 10 A.D.
Great.
And I want a map of the Mediterranean world. So you have pretty much all the knowledge of the ancient Greeks now.
Oh, this is great. So, well, I start making triangles everywhere. Everything is a triangle. And if you can do what we do today, we do this thing called a backsite. And so there are these really neat optics that you can buy. It's called a transit. And a transit, if I'm in 10 AD, I just get a straw, a really long straw, literally the plant straw that's hollowed out. And I figure out how to level that straw. And the first thing I would do is I would figure out how to level it, and then I would create a circle at the base of the straw, and I would rotate it, and I would divide that circle up into smaller and smaller increments as best I could. And I would start looking at far-off mountaintops. And if I'm here and I'm looking at that mountaintop, and I'm there and I'm looking at that mountaintop, the angle between those distances is different.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would look back between the 2 points, and I would measure those angles, and that gives me a triangle with 3 angles. If you have a couple of different mountaintops you can look at, then you can figure out where you are. In fact, there's a mountain at one of the missile ranges in the desert that I tested on a lot. And we had this survey crew, and I was shooting a thing a very long distance. And the survey crew came out, and I knew just enough about survey to ask them questions that didn't sound too stupid. And I said, dude, you're in the middle of nowhere, and you don't have a GPS. What are you referencing? Like, what's your backsite? What are you doing? And he goes, you see that mountaintop over there? I said, yeah. He goes, you see how pointy it is? I said, yeah. He said, that's our backsite. We always use that mountaintop. And I was like, no way. He's like, yes way. And I was like, that's cool. Because it's so like rugged, where we don't have any cell service where we are. And like, you're just doing old school math. And this was like an old crusty guy that was not impressed with his own skills at all, but he was amazing. And his gear wasn't super fancy. It was just, it had the ability to determine an elevation angle, and it had the ability to determine an azimuth angle.
I don't know what that means. Azimuth?
Azimuth, pointing left and right.
Why don't you just say left and right then?
Yeah. It was cool, man. It was very cool. And so I would assume that they would do something like that. And to measure distances, they would have a measuring line or a measuring chain, which they did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so you would pull the chain taut, kind of like the first down marker in football.
Yeah.
You probably know all this stuff already. What did Lewis and Clark do?
I don't know. I don't remember. I got taught in school when I was a little kid, because Lewis and Clark is a huge deal out here.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember how they did it. The stuff I remember seeing just looked like, drawings and sketches on leather or something like that. I'm sure they were far more technical. But I don't remember how they did it, how they measured distance.
That's awesome.
So, okay. Yeah, what you just described, I think would work. Not that I'm the the ultimate arbiter of what will and will not work for making maps in the ancient world. But that makes sense to me. And it seems like you could scale that and just keep going. As long as you could get access and you could point to something, you could do it. If you had to do the whole ocean, you could probably put down a series of buoys on anchors. I mean, you could anchor a bunch of ships and have them, put up tall masts or markers, and you could try to work off of that. I don't know. It seems like you could figure it out. It would be very, very hard to do that over the entire globe. But I think you've presented an idea that could scale, which is cool. So there's the technical side. But here's the next question that I think is, to me at least, maybe even more interesting. How do you make it so other people can understand what you drew?
Oh, wow. Well, you have to draw a compass rose. I think if you have features like a wall around your city or something, that would be really easy. I think the coastline makes a lot of sense. You'd put city names on it.
What would you say is the most distinctive thing that just tells the story of what place that is when you look at it on an unmarked map?
If I were to make New York Harbor, I would put the Statue of Liberty on the map. And I would draw the statue.
What is the most recognizable country in the world to you just by shape? Give me your top 5.
The outline of the shape?
Yeah.
Senegal.
What? What is the matter with you? What are you doing? What?
Senegal, man. It's got the Gambia right in the middle of it, like a little tongue on a lizard.
Okay, it is very distinctive, but I'm not even sure people from Senegal gave that answer.
Senegal.
What? Okay. All right. No, it's your list. All right. Number 1, most recognizable country shape on Earth is Senegal.
No, it's not. I mean, for me, it's just a weird shaped country. But America's pretty good because you got Florida and you got Maine. Mm-hmm. I mean, America's pretty awesome for many reasons.
And you got you got Texas. You got the Gulf of America / Gulf of Mexico. You got the.
Did you call it Gulf of America?
I'm gonna say both.
Did you call it Gulf
Dude, that's
of
what
America?
it says on the map I'm looking at right now. So, if we want to make these things evergreen, so one of those two things will be true when you listen to this a few years down the road.
I refuse. I just call it the Gulf now. I don't play games with that. I'm like, man.
Well,
this
the
is
Gulf.
stupid.
That's
I'm
still a
just gonna call it the Gulf.
concession. That's still a concession. No, you still made a move. You think you've not made a choice, but you've made a choice.
Have
I know
I?
where you stand on the Gulf
okay.
issue. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
And you got that long, flat, just latitudinal border on the north with Canada. I think that's pretty distinctive too with USA. But we're biased because we're Americans. What else you got on your top 5?
The UK looks pretty. I would say the big islands like Australia and Greenland, they have a distinct shape. Japan.
I think I know what Greenland looks like, but it's so skewed on the projection.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
Like maybe I don't. I'm not sure. All right, you got 4.
Italy.
You got Senegal, US, UK, Australia. What's your 5th?
Italy is the boot.
Italy is the correct answer.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude.
Everyone in the
there.
third chair is shrieking at you right now, like flinging poo mad that you didn't put Italy number 1 and you went with Senegal.
I'm sorry, dude.
Isn't Italy? I mean, surely Italy is the most recognizable country shape on Earth.
I concede. You're right. You're right. I apologize.
Saudi Arabia is pretty distinct.
No.
I think it is. What else is shaped like that?
It looks like Mr. Lunt from VeggieTales. Does it?
It looks like just a character from like a land made entirely of shapes. Like, I'm Mr. Triangle. I'm Mr. Arabia. Okay, like that could be a thing. All right, well, that's a pretty good list. But why are all of those distinctive? I mean, it's because of coastline, right? Like you were saying?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, whereas Colorado and Wyoming, I guess Colorado's longer. It's more rectangular. Is that true?
Blind taste test, I can get that right 10 times out of 10. You put those two in front of me. I'll tell you which one's Wyoming.
Really? Wow.
Maybe. I don't know that I actually could. That would be really fun. I would like to do that. And I don't want it to be some dumb trick test where it's like, they were all Colorado. I'd like to take a blind test on can you tell the difference between Wyoming and Colorado. If you zoom in, you can, because I happen to know about the irregularities in Wyoming. It's not an actual rectangle. It's got some survey errors and some goofy little outcroppings.
Uh-huh.
But you got to zoom way in to see them.
Yeah.
Sorry, you said Wyoming.
Yeah. Oh,
I got worked
my
up.
block just finished. Hold on, let me change a part.
Does it look more like Wyoming or
For
Colorado?
the noise. Can you hear that when I use the air hose?
Kinda.
Does the headphones block it out? Okay, so.
Yeah, your devices are trying to protect me from suffering.
Oh, okay, great. 1, 2, 3. All right, man. I'm wondering if I'm going to be able to ship these things in time. I'm going to make one more like that, and I'm gonna turn the speed up and try not to break my tool. So here we go. There we go. It's polycarbonate. It shouldn't break, right?
What? Why? How on earth would dude, I don't. You could not be asking the wrong person much harder than you're asking right now.
Yeah, it'd be good. So, I don't know, man. I think it'd be really hard to determine the coastline, especially when you're on the other side of the ocean. Like the early drawings of the West Indies, they did a really neat thing. And I think longitude was the biggest problem. I love the longitude problem. Have you read the book Longitude?
No, absolutely not. What's that about? But we still have a pen in the question here of how would you make your map make sense so other people could read it and decipher your research. But tell me about the thing you're talking about.
Okay, let's go back to that. So shapes, you do that with shapes. You'd also do that with statues or prominent things. Like if there's a neat mountain or a geological figure, you would draw it on the map. Not unlike how Lord of the Rings maps are drawn in the books.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the game Candyland. So... Candyland, you kind of go through the rainbow ladder stuff, but you have the swamps and the gumdrops and all those kinds of things on it that kind of describe the different areas.
Can I talk to you real quick about the kind of map you're describing, the Lord of the Rings map?
Yeah.
That is derived from a map that was engraved in 1695 by a Hebrew cartographer. I had to flip to this. I've got it in my book right here, called Abraham Bar Jacob. That right there, that guy's Jewish. Like, I would just be able to figure that out, even if I didn't meet him, just from his name. Because again, that's Abraham Bar Jacob. That is hardcore. That guy's got legit cred right there. So he did a map in like basically 1700 that is, it's like, I don't know.
I'm looking it up.
It's rotated a little bit. It's awesome. It is the Lord of the Rings map. It's just instead of English, it's Hebrew.
The map of Amsterdam Haggadah? Is it?
Well, he did a few. I am looking at Map of the Holy Land.
Oh, is this the guy that went all the way to the Holy Land and like had to draw a map along the way?
Are you talking about that Bordeaux pilgrimage thing I was telling you about before?
Yes. This
that is the
guy.
Bordeaux pilgrimage 1,400 years before this map.
Oh, wow.
But I'm looking at this map, and, you know, Hebrew comes up in seminary, so theoretically I'm supposed to know what's going on here, but I wasn't a good student, and I don't totally know what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
What I do know is that you said that compass rose was the starting point for how you would communicate what was going on with another, somebody reading your map, and that is present on this beautiful map. So that tells me, oh, this map isn't oriented the way I would orient a map. So I have to rotate it slightly. And when I rotate the map to match the compass rose, I'm like, oh, I recognize this. That's the Nile Delta. And that's the Red Sea. And oh, this is the Levant. That's the Sea of Galilee. That's the Dead Sea. Oh, and that must be Jerusalem. And that must be Jericho. Boom. And I'm locked in. I got it. So this dude from 400 years ago, or 300 years ago, drew all these pictures and did all this stuff in what's going to look like chicken scratches to most English readers. But because there was enough consistency in the symbols on this very Lord of the Rings looking map that I'm looking at, I was able to get oriented. I was able to know, oh, this map doesn't orient like I orient my maps. I rotated it on end, and immediately it clicked in, and I could see what this man was seeing about the orientation of the world. I think that's really cool.
It is. And if it's is it the one I'm looking at? It's got like an eagle or a bird in the lower left and like some cows beside that. Are we looking at the same thing?
Yep. Keep describing it. Tell me more about the map.
Is it the same one?
It is. That's the
okay.
Yeah, that's Abraham Bar Jacob's map of the Holy Land.
The one I'm looking at has been colorized, and it's got these different provinces that have colors on them. I guess those are geopolitical boundaries. But my favorite thing on the whole dang map is there's a boat, and then there's some kind of animal in the water near the boat. I love the fact that old maps have dragons on them, dude.
There be dragons.
I love that.
Yeah. Isn't it cool the way he imagines an Egyptian? In the lower right corner, you got I think that's a lady. If so, my goodness, is she ever homely. But she's got this little, like, weird triangular little umbrella sunshade thing, and she's riding like a dragon monster goblin. Like, that's just how people are over there in Egypt.
Yeah,
that's the assumption of
they just drive. They just ride these little dragons. I guess that's a crocodile, or supposed to be a crocodile.
Oh yeah, I bet that's a Nile crocodile. You're right, but it looks more like one of the bad guys from the Dark Crystal, which is funny. It looks like we got Jonah being barfed up on dry land by the fish in the bottom center of the map.
Is that what that is?
I think so. That's what it looks like to me.
Oh wow, wow. Does that mean that's where Nineveh is? If you zoom in really, really far, I can't zoom in on the one I have, but there's a little island because it's a book of the yellow thing on the right. Is that Tyre?
My guess would be that is an exaggerated, very good, by the way, very good. My guess is that would be an exaggerated scale of that little island, that fortress island off the coast there of Tyre. That would be my assumption. Although, well,
Tyre and Sidon?
No, that's closer to Accra. I think that's Akko, because it's south of the Sea of Galilee, and Tyre is north. Ancient Accra, Akko. It was a crucial Crusader fortress. The ancient walls are still up there. I stayed in the ancient walls of that town at an Airbnb when I was there.
Dude, you have to teach me about the Crusades.
We need to do that, don't we? Yeah.
I have to learn about that. There's a book by, who wrote Persian Fire?
Tom Holland, not the actor.
Yeah, so he wrote a book called Millennium? Is that anyway, he wrote a book about the Crusades that I have to find on audiobook form. I know it exists, but I haven't been able to find an audio
We should just go through it together and like book club it. We haven't done one of those in forever.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Okay, so this map though, do you see the Lord of the Rings Mordor Shire motif here that Tolkien was drawing from?
Absolutely. And I love, this is a little thing that I think is pretty clever. On the coast of the Mediterranean, like I guess on the north side of the Mediterranean, it's got pictures of boats. I can't read Hebrew, but I do see multiple boats, and my assumption is that means this is 1 day's sail, this is 2 days sail, this is 3. My assumption is that is like the wind will take your boat this far in this many days. I'm assuming that's what that means.
Yeah, I assume the same. I don't know, but I read that the same way. So, okay, but right there, we went and looked at Abraham Bar Jacob's map. And, the poor third chair doesn't get to see it, but you all have smart devices. You can look it up if you want to. And we were both able to get inside the head of someone who lived in another part of the world a very long time ago, is doing this work in another language, orients his maps differently than us, writes right to left instead of left to right, and yet we could be inside his head, and we could see it, and if we had nothing else to navigate the Holy Land with, that would be better than nothing.
Yeah.
It would be helpful. We'd know where the topless Egyptians are riding crocodiles with umbrellas, which is a thing they do there in Egypt as well.
Apparently.
So like a huge part, I mean, who's a map for? Is it to help you remember what you mapped out? Or is it to help everybody? I mean,
It's to help
generally
everybody.
speaking,
Unless it's treasure.
well, yeah. Wow, that's a whole other conversation. You're right. Okay, let's think about the universal language of maps. Because this whole project is still, you're making a map of the ancient world. What is the correct shape for a map?
Rectangular.
Yeah, see, I think so too. But almost everybody thinks it's a circle.
What?
Uh-huh.
Why?
Walk me through it. Why do you like rectangular?
Because I have two eyes and they are offset on the horizontal axis. And yeah, that's why I like to film videos horizontally instead of vertically. So
Yeah, horizontally says be aware of your environment. Vertically says be aware of this person. Vertically says zoom in your attention on this one thing only. Yeah, I like what horizontal communicates more. And I like really wide maps. Like there's a map called the Peutinger map. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but Conrad Peutinger is the guy who inherited this map from the ancient world. And I got exposed to this map in seminary years ago, and I've never stopped thinking about it. It dates to around 300 AD, and this is a map that basically just goes off of coastlines. It doesn't make any attempt to figure out how much sea is in between stuff. So it is incredibly disorienting, but once you kind of get it mentally decoded, you can start to say, oh, okay, I see what you're doing, whoever made this. And I see how somebody could even navigate the Roman world using this thing. It's very wide, very skinny. And just imagine if you just made every body of water skinny, like all the same thickness. The Mediterranean Sea, the Volga River, the Indian Ocean, they're just all the same thickness. If it's water, that's how much
everything's
it is.
skinny.
Yeah, it'd be very, very hard to figure it out. But once you crack the code, you can get inside the cartographer's head and you can understand it. So that's an example of a very wide, more than 16 by 9 wide ancient map. But so many of the ancient maps I find are effectively round. There's a type of map called a T&O map. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
Can I tell you about it?
Please do. What does the T stand for?
All right, I need you to get something to write with, and I know you love that T&O when it comes to maps. Okay, can you get something to write with?
I have it.
Sheet of paper. Okay, ready?
Yep.
Everybody can make a T&O map from description. I can walk you through it. Okay, make a ring, just a circle, a wheel. Not just a single circle, but a very wide circle, and then a little narrower circle just inside of that.
I have a horizontal, like a rectangular page. Is the circle, the outer circle, going to be like the whole size of the page?
It's the whole thing. Yep, just fill it with a circle.
Done.
And now just draw another circle, 10% inside of that one. So you'll just have like a big bold O.
Looks like,
there.
Yeah, got it.
Okay. Now, using the same, basically the same width you have in your ring, just bisect it straight across from left to right.
The same width. What now?
Just bisect the circle. Just draw a line from the 9 o'clock to the 3 o'clock
Done.
of your circle.
I've got a Pokemon ball now.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right, so you have a circle with a line running straight through the middle.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, got it.
Okay, now put your pen in the middle point of everything. So it's going to be on that horizontal line at the middle point. You got it there?
Yep.
Now just go straight down to 6 o'clock.
Okay. Got it.
Now, you've made an ancient TO map, which would seem to be how many ancients conceived of the world.
Okay.
Now I'm going to give you a hint. I'm going to tell you what part of the world people thought this represented. This is the ancient Mediterranean world and the ancient Near East. So like Persia, Iran, Iraq, all the way to like Spain.
Okay.
What's your guess? as to what you're looking at there? How would it represent that?
I don't know. I see an aircraft instrument. Like I see a horizon indicator in my head. I don't know, man.
That's okay. That's okay. Okay, now I'm going to give you a couple of hints. Ready?
Yes.
Go to the 9 o'clock position outside your circle and write an N outside your circle at the 9 o'clock position.
Okay.
Go to the 3 o'clock position and write an S outside the circle.
Okay.
Now you can figure it out from here. Go to the noon position and write in, well, what would go there?
That would be E.
Yeah, and then obviously a W in the 6 o'clock position.
Yeah.
Now let's try it again. We're filling in details. Now what's your guess for how the ancients, how this could possibly represent the world to them?
So I'm in the armpit of the Mediterranean in the top right corner. Is that
okay?
Is that where I am?
Good guess. Nope. I'm going to give you some more details, and we're going to keep filling it in then. What do I want to give you next? Okay, I'm going to start giving it away now. Okay, your short line, the one that runs from the middle of the clock down to 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
On end, on that line, right? MED.
Okay.
That is the Mediterranean Sea.
To the left.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Now, go to the line, the half of the long line that runs from the middle of the clock to 9 o'clock. That is the one that runs from the middle of the clock north. And on that
wait. As I'm looking at this, is the Mediterranean Sea the bottom right quadrant?
No, it's the line.
Oh.
The line from the middle of the clock to 6 o'clock is Med. It's Mediterranean Sea.
Okay.
The line, the half of the long line, from the middle of the clock to 9 o'clock, write dawn, D-O-N, on that line.
Okay, got it.
Now, from the middle of the clock to 3 o'clock, write Nile on that line.
Dawn, is that the Danube?
It is not, although, nice catch, it's from the same root word, but it is not the Danube. The Don and the Danube are different rivers.
Okay.
The Don is the river that starts just south of Moscow, and I don't think it goes into the Black Sea. I think it goes into the Sea of Azov. That's the little apostrophe that comes off the upper right end of the Black Sea. Can you picture that?
Yeah, the Sea of Azov is northeast of Crimea.
There you go.
Yeah.
The Don empties into there. I don't know why they picked the Don. You know where the Nile is? Obviously, that's where shirtless ladies ride crocodiles with umbrellas on. You know how they do there in Egypt.
Absolutely.
It's just, everybody knows it. Okay, now we're going to fill in 3 more things. Those quadrants you were talking about. Well, what do you think the 3 quadrants are? I mean, they're really, of course, there are normally 4 quadrants, but one is double-sized. What do you think the double-sized space in the middle of the circle is?
Israel?
I'm going to give it to you.
The Holy Land? Asia?
So let's fill in Asia there. Okay, so now the top half of the clock.
It's the top half of the clock. All of that, that's China.
It's all Asia. It's just all Asia, the top half of the clock. Okay, lower left quadrant of the clock then.
Europe.
What is that?
That's
Europe.
Yeah.
Very good. Fill that in, please.
Bottom right is Africa. Okay.
Very good. That's Africa. Okay. Now, we have one more note, but I'm not going to add that to it yet. All right, you're sitting there looking at the map. How would this make sense to people? This T and O map that you're looking at in front of you right now that you've just drawn.
How would this make sense?
Could you navigate with it?
Jerusalem would have to be in... Does the Don River... The Don and the Nile don't meet, though, do they?
They do not. No, not even close.
Okay.
I mean, they do, in that the Don goes into the Sea of Azov, and that goes into the Black Sea, and that goes through the Bosporus and the Aegean Sea and into the Mediterranean Sea, and so does the Nile, but no, they don't meet.
Okay. Yeah, then I don't understand why it's touching... Oh, crap, I turned my power up. Hold on, wait 1 second. I turned my feet up too high, and I got scared. So I'm looking now.
Did you salvage it?
Okay, I'm not scared anymore. I'm going to turn my feedback to 200%. Okay. What was the question again?
Could you navigate with this? Does this have any navigational value whatsoever that would get you ahead of nothing and no knowledge of the world?
I do not. Yeah, I don't think I could. I don't think I'd be able to. I'm sorry. I was looking at what time the UPS store closes because I gotta take my stuff to the store.
Do you have to bounce?
No, not at this exact moment. I will shortly. I've got to make... If I can make 2 more parts, I would be happy.
Okay, that helps me pace. I gotcha.
Yeah.
See, I think this does have some navigational value. This does roughly tell me that the Mediterranean Sea divides Europe from Africa. That is true.
Yes, it does.
It tells me that the Nile divides Africa from Asia.
Oh, okay.
I mean, yeah, I think it does. It also tells us a little bit about where the ancients thought the ambiguous border between Europe and Asia was. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, that is.
Because how do you divide Europe and Asia? Who's a European? Who's an Asian? Right? Is somebody from Georgia European or Asian? What do you associate that with?
According to the map, they're Asian.
Okay. Well, this is where the ancients apparently drew the line. You know, it's an interesting data point. It also tells me that they thought Asia was bigger than Africa and Europe.
Yeah.
So it's something. It also tells me that the Mediterranean Sea ends at Asia. So if all I had was this, and I were fumbling along as a time traveler trying to remember some Latin or ancient Greek, and I was on a vessel and trying to make my way to Jerusalem, I would at least know that the Mediterranean ends somewhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't go cleanly all the way through. It stops. I think that's a valuable data point.
I just looked up T&O map. This is interesting.
Did it look like what you drew?
Yeah. It looks pretty close to what we drew. The reason I was confused is when you said draw at 10%, the inner circle 10%, you meant 10% offset from the outer circle.
My fault. That was the hardest. I had the hardest time articulating that. My fault.
I had a set of calipers here, and I drew it 10% the size of the outer circle. And so that's where I was confused. But when I look at the T&O map on Wikipedia here, it makes sense. That's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, I blew it. I shouldn't have given you that second ring. I was going to fill in one more data point in that second ring. Nuts. Okay, well, we got close.
Yeah.
You got the concept here. I don't know where you're seeing this map or which T&O map you're looking at, because this isn't a map. This is a style of map that exists in various degrees of complexity. So what are you seeing in front of you?
It looks like I'm on the Wikipedia page, T&O map.
All right.
Yeah, and it's interesting because
What does it
there are
say?
different levels of T&O map. Like there are some that are more refined, like it has more information on it. It's pretty fascinating. That it makes sense. And as long as you don't feel like north has to be north. And you know what? Orienting east to the north actually makes sense because that's where the sun comes up.
I think so too.
That makes a lot of
And
sense.
it also kind of explains why our friend Abraham Bar Jacob oriented his map with east up that we were just looking at from the Holy Land.
It's pretty smart.
It's pretty smart.
Yeah.
So is the T&O map you're looking at very simple or very complex?
The first one is simple, and then the one immediately below that is complex.
Does it say the name of the one below it?
The one below it is the Hereford Mappa Mundi.
Okay. That's exactly the map that I have next in front of me here in my book.
Uh-huh.
And tell me what you see on that map. What's going on? Is it recognizable to you?
Now that you've described what we're looking at, I mean, I see islands out in the Mediterranean. I see certain types of fish. I see little harbors. I'm looking for the... Yeah, it's interesting because as you get further away from the center of the map, the features get more disproportionate scale-wise. Like the whole Sea of Azov that you have there is very tiny on this map, but it's actually kind of large. And the Black Sea, I guess that's the Black Sea. Okay, that's fascinating. I would love to see this in higher detail, but it's simply it's pretty bad. I would love to see a high-res version of this.
Yeah, I mean, this is a Crusader map, basically, and it shows, because the details that you would get from Crusade routes, which is what people cared about at the time this map was being made, how do I get to and from the Holy Land safely from Central and Western Europe? That stuff is pretty detailed, and what I see here is an exaggeration in terms of the places that you might need to know at sea. So the islands, they're not even trying to make that to scale. This is a map that is meant more to navigate than a simpler T&O map, I guess is my point.
Yeah.
This is supposed to help you. Yeah. Well, you caught something that was very attentive and ahead of the game. You observed that the middle point of the map with a T&O map would be what city?
Jerusalem.
Yeah. Now, there's a debate between smart thinky history types about as to whether that is on purpose, whether that is a theological statement. It's possible that T&O maps predate Jesus and widespread Jewish influence, and therefore, I mean, why would Jerusalem be the town that you would put in the middle of the world? That doesn't make any sense at all. If T&O maps, though, aren't derived from anything and they sort of spontaneously caught on in the Christian era, then yeah, maybe it would make sense that they're trying to make a theological point that, you know, this is where all the Jesus stuff happened and everything. And there is, I went and looked this up in advance of our conversation. I'm going to read you one verse from a non-Bible book that sounds like Bible. Have you heard of the Book of Jubilees?
Yes.
Okay. 2nd century BC, kind of retelling of Genesis with more details. There's a lot of interest in the ancient world about theories about what people group came from where. I mean, really, this was a very popular thing for scholars to muse about until really the 20th century, when we've gone with more of kind of a melting pot approach. But there's been a jillion theories of like, oh, these folks are from here and they're hardy and they're built this way, and these people are the people of the hills and they're from here. And it seems like the Book of Jubilees was a book that was very interested in the diverse world and who everybody is and where they came from and who's descended from whom. And in Jubilees 8:19, this is not a Bible book, but it's written in that style. It says, "He knew that the Garden of Eden is the Holy of Holies and the dwelling of the Lord, and Mount Sinai, the center of the desert, and Mount Zion," that's Jerusalem, "which is the center of the navel of the earth. These three were created as holy places facing each other." That phrase right there.
Jerusalem, the navel of the
navel
earth.
Of the earth. Yeah.
Is Jerusalem on the Mediterranean? I thought it was inland.
I mean, barely. It's a stone's throw from the Mediterranean. But yeah, your memory is serving you correctly there.
Okay. Interesting.
So some scholars look at this map and they're like, this is a religious orientation map, and it's meant to tell the story of history in a way that simple people could remember, but with a physical geography component, a light one built in, just using this T and O. Some people even see, like a Christian symbol with a cross or something in here, and all sorts of theological layers. I'm not sure that I think that. They view that ring around everything that I tried to get you to draw as a thin ring all the way around, but I misspoke. They would view that as the sea that encircles the world. There's nothing beyond it. The world ends with seas in all directions.
That's cool.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And all the TO maps have that. They're all just surrounded by, well, it's edge of the map fog. It's just the ocean out there. Tough luck. I think that's cool. Which is, of course, why there be dragons out there. And you've read a book that you just love that is a children's book that riffs on this ancient idea that all that is beyond civilization is sort of magical seas, endless seas until you get to the end of reality. Do you know what book I'm talking about?
The Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
Yes. Yes. That's a riff on a TO map.
Awesome. That's cool. I didn't know that.
I kind of thought so. There's more we could go through, but I'll just say this. I think the TO map is one of the most interesting styles of maps ever in all of history because it doesn't give you much in terms of navigation. I don't think it's a navigation map. I think it's a simple, memorable orientation tool that a teacher could draw with a stick in the sand. Very simply, here's a circle, here's a T. Now come here, student, let me explain how the world is in a way that you can remember. Because that kid, for almost all of history, is not going to have any maps to stare at. They're not going to have any sense of space or where they are or where they fit in the world or how the world is. And here's something that I don't think this is a representation of, oh, people were so stupid back then. They didn't know any better. No, we looked at a bunch of maps that are more detailed. People knew the world was more complicated than an O and a T. I think this was a teaching tool used to make the concept of you live on a complex sphere and you live in this part of it make sense to normal people who would never travel more than a few miles from their homes over their entire lives. And I think it's a brilliant way to represent the world that people knew so that even a simple person in ancient times or medieval times could have some sense of where they fit in the grand scheme of things.
I think it's awesome, dude. It's very cool. I never heard of this.
Final question. I'm going to leave you alone because I know you got to get this wrapped up.
I'm about to vapor polish something, and
I don't
have
understand
to
what that
cover
means.
my mouth with a mask when I do that. I apologize to you for being kind of in and out here. I'm just trying to, you know what I'm doing. I'm sorry.
I feel like you have cared.
Yeah, I do care.
Like, I don't feel disrespected at all. It's cool, man. I knew you had stuff to do today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally cool. You got to put that mask on right now? You want me to just wait a second to ask you this last question?
No, keep going.
Okay, this is my final question for you. I'm going to make a statement, and I'm going to ask you how you feel. For me, maps are very important. Well, I think you noticed this about me early in our friendship, that I really care about where you live. Do you remember noting that?
What do you mean? Where? You mean Alabama?
No, I just mean like where the places you like to go are relative to other places,
Yeah.
and how long it takes to drive there, and this road and that road.
Yeah, I feel like you care.
Yeah, I like being oriented. That's fun for me. And I like kind of figuring out the patterns of, oh, like this part of the map, you'd have to drive like this to get wherever you were going. Oh, that would shape a person over the course of a lifetime. Interesting. So I like maps, and I like orienteering and all of that stuff. And living in the age of science and aerial photography, and living my entire life with complete and total orientation to pinpoint detail being accurate is it's a privilege, and it kind of shapes me. I think a little bit it crushes my sense of wonder, which is a bummer, but also it lets me enjoy a sense of precision and place in terms of the space I occupy and the spaces I've visited. So I'm cool with the age I live in, but from a purely emotional point of view, would you rather live in the age of a TO map or in the age of aerial photography?
Oh, dang, man. Holy cow, that's a good question. Well, I mean, modern medicine aside, I think we all live in the age of TO maps. I mean, the frontier is always expanding. Right now, it's space in the deep oceans. But, dude, I've been to some places in the Amazon that we just didn't know a whole lot about it. And so I think the frontiers always exist. I don't know, we kind of imagine that we know a whole lot more than we do about where we are. Just because I can punch in something on Google Earth, it's pretty great to be able to navigate places very, very quickly and get there. But at the same time, man, we don't know a lot about space right now. The book I was just reading made me think a lot about that, because they were talking a lot about, hey, it's so many light years from here to there, and we can only go so fast. That sounds a whole lot like it's this many days sail from here to there. They're not very different. We just need to create better propulsion systems to get places. But at the same time, orienting way out there is going to be really neat. The same way we're doing what you're talking about here, we have a vector and we think about it, we're going to have to do the same thing with stars. And it's fascinating, man. It's fascinating. I'm thinking a lot about how big the universe is, and I'm thinking about how small we are in it, and it doesn't feel very unlike what you just described. A TO map, if I'm living in Spain in 1200 AD, it's pretty daunting, but it's knowable what's out there. Like, the shape of the universe out there is knowable. In the same way that I know what Mars is like and where it is, but it's getting there is extremely daunting and scary. So I don't know the answer to your question. I think it's a really thoughtful question. What is your answer to that? Would you rather live in the age of TO maps or satellite imagery?
I feel magic with the eras of the past where we didn't know as much. I really yearn for that sense of anything could be out there. Who knows what's beyond that sea? Is there a chain of islands? Is there an end of the world? What happens? Who lives out there? What's the furthest anybody's gone? That stuff is just enchanting to me. And I do live with a constant state of low-grade sorrow while I'm in my air-conditioned house with my modern medicine and my healthy food. I do feel low-grade sorrow that I was born at a time where it kind of feels like most of the really big, interesting mysteries like that got taken up. In 4th grade, the duck guy came to class. I know I've told you this. I'll make it quick. The duck guy came to Mrs. Springer's 4th grade class in Cardinal Elementary School in Kokota, Iowa. And he's like, I'm from the duck thing, and I'm going to tell you about ducks. And he told us about a whole bunch of ducks, and he had duck pictures, and it was great. And I raised my hand, and I was like, so how many more ducks do you think there are that we can still find? And he was like, oh, no, there are no more ducks. We found them all. We found them. And I was like, oh, well, crap. I wanted to find some ducks. There are no new ducks? And I went home and I was sad, and I've never stopped being sad about that. So on the one hand, I do yearn for a different time because I know this world and I like this world. And I think it would have been, and I think there's stuff we don't know about the past. I don't buy, a lot of the goofy historical conspiracy stuff that's starting to get traction in dumb corners of the internet that frustrate me. But I will agree with them on this. Of course there are things that happened and people who lived and creatures that existed and paradigms that existed that are lost. And we don't know. We see nods to them in history, but we don't know. So there were mysteries out there that even now were undiscovered. Dang it. Would have been cool to see that. I have trouble shifting my mentality to having that same sense of wonder and awe in the sci-fi universe. I'm just more of a fantasy than a sci-fi guy. Barely. I like them both. So if I can shift my thinking here in the second half of my life to imagining that ring around the TO map being the void of space, and think about it more like Gene Roddenberry, your Captain Kirk, thinks about it, maybe there's a way to recapture that magic as I live here at the dawn of a great new age of exploration. And maybe I can end up being a kid full of wonder when I was a little kid, and an old guy full of wonder in the second half of my life as well.
Yeah, man. So does that mean that means TO maps or no TO maps?
Assuming modern medicine, I'm going TO. But since it's unrealistic, I'm trying to accept what I have and get excited about all that lies beyond here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for caring about the maps. We left a bunch on the table. There's so much more. I'm not going to make you do another map episode, but Thanks for just playing ball with a bunch of weird questions and drawing pictures as I described them to you.
It's fantastic, dude. I really appreciate it. No, I love this.
This was fun. Cool. Well, you're a good sport. I appreciate it. And I don't know. We got to think, like, maybe I'll work on a project next time while you're doing your thing. Maybe I'll mow my lawn while you talk to me about stuff.
Maybe you were already doing that with your robot.
Booyah! I was mowing my lawn this whole time, Destin. All right, buddy. I'm out. Have fun.
Thanks for teaching me about TO maps. I love it.
Right on. Go collide things. See you, buddy.
Later. Bye.